And one important teaching that we are going to focus today is the Buddha's teaching on Viriya. So Viriya, some of you already may be familiar with this term Viriya. In English, we can call it strength, maybe perseverance, the inner willpower. So it's more like, our it's one of the faculties that Buddha talked about. So as human beings, we have this inner strength, inner willpower, and also ability to make effort. And you can also call it like a zeal, perseverance, and this inner ability is what Buddha called Viriya. And we find this term Viriya in number of places, and you may be familiar with the similar other term, what we call Vayama. In the Noble Eightfold Path, when we start with right understanding, and when it comes to number 6, we call it right effort. And there we have another term called Vayama, Samma Vayama. And Viriya and Vayama are very closely connected. Actually, Viriya is the willpower, the strength, and Vayama is the putting forth of that Viriya. So the Vayama is activating the Viriya, like applying the Viriya. So it's the same as very related two terms talking about the same thing. When you say it Viriya, that refers to the ability, the inner ability. And when you call it Vayama, it refers to the application of that ability, putting forth the effort. Okay, so in order for us to understand what really Buddha discussed here, let us try to pay attention how we are conditioned by the environment that we are in, and how do we make decisions in our life. How we decide certain behaviors over the other behaviors. When we generally think about our behavior, and most of people are fully influenced by the situation that they are in. So our behavior, our emotions, our moods, and our the verbal and physical interactions, all these things are conditioned by, maybe influenced by the situation that we are in. If we are in a situation that everything is very smooth, and all the people that we meet, that we engage with are very kind and patient, and then we'll be nice too, right? But if you are encountering situations that are not smooth and so challenging, happening things the way that we didn't want, and maybe people that we have to work with are not normally smooth. Maybe they have their own habitual patterns. They may be impatient. They may be not listening. They may not be mindful enough. And if we are in such a situation, how would be our nature? How would be our emotions? How it would be our mood? We will be completely influenced by that surrounding environment, that situation. And usually, the people are influenced by the situation that they are in. So whether they are kind or not, whether they are patient or not, whether they are aggressive or not, all mainly are decided by the situation that they are in. That's the normal human behavior. It's like water, right? That water will take the shape of the plane, shape of the terrain that water is flowing through. If the water is flowing through in a smooth, a level land, the water will be very nice and serene, will be move smoothly. If the water is moving through a slope and the water will take another shape, complete different shape, will be very fast. If the water is moving through rocks, and it will have all kind of other shapes. So the water is completely the victims of the terrain that it is in. So most of human beings are like that. And most of us, in most cases, will be like that. Our nature, our emotions, our moods, our reactions, and everything will be decided by the environment that we are in, our situation, the people whom we are with. But what Buddha is telling here with the term Viriya, we can go beyond the water. We don't have to be like the water. And we have a will, we have a power within us that we can transcend the situation that we are in. We can go beyond the influences of our surrounding environment, our circumstances. So that's the ability that Buddha wants us to understand, what you call Viriya. And we are conditioned by or influenced by not only by the outer environment or situations, we are also conditioned by another factor. That is more like inner conditions. We are conditioned by the outer conditions, outer circumstances and situations. We are also conditioned by our inner desires, inner habitual tendencies, and our inner defilements. So as human beings, from our previous reactions, and we have developed certain habitual patterns in us. We also have certain, urges within us, like defilements within us. Of course, Buddha categorized those defilements into three main groups. About that, category of greed, category of hatred, and category of delusion. Within these categories, you can have many types of defilements, definitely. So we have been conditioned or influenced by the inner factors too. Our habits mainly, habitual tendencies, habitual patterns, and of course our specific desires. All these things are also, conditioning us, our behavior. So as human beings, we have been conditioned, we have been influenced by outer circumstances and also our inner defilements and our inner habits. So in a way, a person is being pulled by the outer circumstances, and also at the same time pushed by the inner tendencies. So we have been pulled and pushed by these, two types of environment within us. And most of human beings are simply victims to these two forces of, we can call it forces of power, or these two conditions, two sets of conditions. But the Buddha advised us, we don't have to be a victim all the time to our outer circumstances. We also do not have to be victim to our own habitual patterns too. There is a power hidden within us. There's a potential hidden within us. Then although these circumstances are are conditioning us, pushing us to react in a particular way, although our own habits are pushing us and encouraging us and directing us to behave in a particular way, we don't have to follow them necessarily. And we have, within us, we have a special potential, a special capacity, special ability that if you want, that we can withstand these influences, and then we can change our reaction, our behavior. So as human beings, we should be aware of this special faculty, this special ability. So all progress in our life is possible when we understood this ability and use that ability to transcend or go beyond the power of our circumstances, and also the very, very forceful power of our inner habits. So we have such a power. So let me share my screen to show you, where the Buddha talked about these powers. Okay, I hope that you can see my screen right now. So Buddha talks about five types of powers. Five types of special abilities, skill sets we have, and Buddha used the term Indriya for that. 5 types of Indriya. A term Indra refers to a leader. So Indriya is that whatever that leads us, whatever that pushed us, whatever that motivates us. So Indriya. So in English we call them faculties. So there are 5 such Indriyas, five such inner faculties that we have as a human being. So one of those faculties is the Viriya. So let's go with these faculties, and you are reading what you have within you. Okay, the faculty of faith or conviction is also a very important faculty that we can develop. So when we come to know about the great wisdom of the Buddha, what Buddha discovered, and when you come to know about his great qualities and his exemplary qualities and virtues, when you realize, how convincing is his Dhamma, how it's really revealing the truth behind our life. When you also come to know about the disciples of the Buddha who are, developing these skills, so you develop this faith, this conviction, this inspiration to change yourself. That's a faculty. And then, of course, the Viriya that we are talking about, the faculty of persistence or perseverance or effort or strength, willpower. We can translate this in a number of ways. And then, of course, very important one is faculty of sati. Of course, we are discussing so much about sati, mindfulness. So today I'm talking about something different, which is related. All these faculties are related to each other. And mindfulness will only become useful if we only use Viriya. We can become aware of our emotions. We can become aware of our defilements. We can be aware that our greed is pushing us to do some wrong thing. We can be aware that our anger is pushing us to say the wrong thing. We can be aware of that. But if you don't rely on Viriya, and you'll be aware of that and you will still do it, maybe, if you apply Viriya, you can move away from that. And of course, faculty of samadhi, that's another ability that we have a potential to bring our mind to a very settled, serene, peaceful state. Most of the time, our mind is agitated and moving up high and low, but we have a capacity within us that we can bring it to a very serene, settled level, samadhi. And of course, one of the other important faculties, panya, a faculty of wisdom or discernment. That's our ability to penetrate through the reality and see the reality behind all the phenomena. A power of penetration, discernment. So these are the powers that we possess. So usually when we talk about a spiritual path, we talk about how we can gradually remove our defilements, how we can gradually reduce our defilements. And we call enlightenment is a complete eradication of all defilements in a way that they will never rise again. So usually enlightenment, our spiritual progress is explained by referring to the reducing and gradual eradication of defilements. So we are talking about what we are losing, what we are eradicating, what we are removing. But you also need to remember, in this whole process, spiritual process, we are also growing certain other faculties. While defilements are reducing, defilements are removed, we are also growing these 5 faculties. The person who are advancing in this spiritual path is removing the defilements, but growing these 5 faculties. And the fully enlightened person has grown these 5 faculties to the fullest level. So enlightenment is not only like removing defilements, but it's also improving each important 5 faculties that we have. So Viriya is one such faculty. So that's what we are discussing today. Okay, let me come back. So now we understood that the among one Viriya, or the Viriya is one of the 5 faculties that we all have, and we should remember that just like we have the power of mindfulness, that we can become aware of our own mind at any time. We can be aware of our body, how we feel our body at any time. So we just turn our attention in and become aware of that. It's a very special ability that we have. Just like that, we also have a inner strength within us that we can navigate our emotions. We can navigate, we can transcend or go beyond the circumstances that we are in, and also the influence that we are getting from our inner habitual patterns. So this is the ability that we need to rely on. So when you think about the external, so this is very related to the time period that we are living in. Because in this particular period, many circumstances are not favorable. We are all meeting all the difficulties, challenges, and things will not happen smoothly. So we are in a situation that circumstances are not favorable. So we may be easily conditioned by, influenced by these circumstances. That's normal. That's normal. But we have the Viriya, of course, we have to use our wisdom, we have to use our mindfulness, and then also the Viriya as a, willpower, as a, effort to go beyond that. So, of course, what we are doing today, having this Dhamma sharing session is one such example of Viriya. Just because we can't go to the Buddhist center, and we are not going to be victim to that situation. we try to find a way to go beyond that. So when you use Viriya, all the unfavorable circumstances, all our challenges, all our adversities become opportunities for us to think beyond, think out of the box, and be creative and find new ways to do things. So when we rely on Viriya, all the adversities, of course they will be challenging thing to face, but with mindfulness, with wisdom, and with Viriya, we will try to find a way to deal with this, and we will discover something new as a result. So in our life, we can have our personal adversities, and we can also have public adversities. Maybe you can think about your own personal life. We may meet with so many adversities in our life. Maybe financial problems, and sometimes our family members can get sick, and then maybe our own personal health can be bad. And there can be so many adversities happening to us. That's normal in our life. We will meet these adversities in our personal life, and in our common society also we will face adversities like we are facing right now, this kind of pandemic and overall financial problem. When we face this, and we need to remember, I don't have to be like water, and it's normal that we have been fully conditioned by them, but with Viriya, we need to remember, okay, so this adversity is in front of me, it's difficult, it's challenging, it is overwhelming, but Buddha had taught me that I have Viriya. If I use my mindfulness, if I use my wisdom, I may be able to do something different here. I may be able to use this adversity for my in my favor. So because all the adversities or challenges demands us to behave differently. It demands us to change how we look at things. So it's kind of helping us to go beyond our comfort zones. And so in a way, as I told you, it helps us to be creative. So if you face adversities with mindfulness, wisdom, and Viriya, we may find new ways of doing things. We can make it an opportunity to grow beyond. So we need to remember that we have that ability within us. And let me share with you one important story that we find in the Buddhist tradition that can help us to understand how adversities can turn into be opportunities. And then with Viriya, how we can be strong without being influenced by the circumstances, but facing those circumstances very skillfully and turn them to be opportunities. So once you know that, you don't become fearful when you meet with an adversity. You will use it as opportunity. Okay, oh, another chance for me to look into myself and change and find new ways to do it. Okay, so this story comes from not from the suttas, but from Jataka. I think we are familiar with the Jataka stories. So some of the Jatakas are the story of the previous lives of the Buddha. When the Buddha was trained to become an enlightened one, and in his previous lives, he have developed so many other qualities. We call them perfections or paramis, the different qualities that help them to develop the enlightened, the skill sets that a fully enlightened being needs to teach, to help others. So one of such stories called Vanupata Jataka. This is the name of the story, Vanupata Jataka. And this is a very important story that we should tell our children. And this actually, in fact, this is the second Jataka story in the whole collection. In Jataka, we have close to 500 stories. Not all of them are actually, all the story of the previous lives of the Buddha, because there can be, some folk stories also came to this collection. But some of them are definitely stories of the life of the previous lives of the Buddha. But anyway, these stories are teaching us so much important lessons. And this is one example. Okay, this is an example how the Bodhisattva, the Buddha in his previous lives, encouraged his team to use Viriya to go beyond the circumstances that they faced with. According to this story, in many years, many years ago, the Buddha was a caravan leader. He was a caravan leader, and he's kind of merchant. So he's bringing goods from one area to another area. So he had many caravans. So in his journey to a new city, he has to cross a desert. So when he crossed the desert, he had to prepare for that. So they also carry the goods, but they also carry what they need to consume along the way. So when he decided the length of the journey and also the length of the desert, and then he decided how much water and how much other requisites they should bring along with them. And so because they also need to carry like goods to sell, and so they were quite careful, how many caravans that they want to devote to these, basic needs. So they only brought what they really need. They didn't, maybe a little bit extra, but they didn't use. They want to bring as many merchandise as possible. So therefore, they only bring what is necessary for them. So then they were going to this new city, and they had to cross this desert. And then, so in this, usually they travel in the desert in the night. The reason that in the daytime they can't travel, it's too hot. The sand is too hot, the weather is too hot. They only travel in the evening, in the night. So when you travel in the night, you can't see anything. Of course, even the daytime in the desert, you will not be able to see many things. But there was a system, how they did. There was a person called maybe a desert pilot. The person traveling in the first caravan of the line of caravans, and he will look at the stars, the constellation of the stars, and then he will decide the direction that they should travel based on the position of the stars. And because in desert, everything will be the same, right? So you can travel anywhere. So he will look at the stars and will decide the direction that you need to go. And he's the kind of, the person who's telling the road, the pilot, so to speak. Maybe in modern day language, we can call it maybe GPS, right? We use the GPS. So ancient time, they also had a GPS, their own version of GPS. Of course, nowadays our GPS receiving signals from satellites, but those days, those human GPS, they were receiving signals from the stars. Means they're looking at the position of the stars and they will decide the direction that they want to travel. So here, this pilot, the caravan, and the pilot has a very important role. So they were traveling, and they had to travel a few days in the desert. In the daytime they will rest, and the night they will travel. So now they have traveled quite a bit of the distance, and they are almost, going to reach the city the next day. They only had to travel one night. So the pilot was so relaxed, and he is so happy he's going to reach. So of course, after many days of staying up in the night, he also feels sleepy, and he also got relaxed towards the end. So at that night, he fall asleep, and the oxen who is carrying the first caravan didn't receive guidance from this pilot, because he was fallen asleep. And so the oxen just walk as he likes, and then he actually accidentally he turned around, as when kind of creating like a circle. He turned around, he's kind of walking in the other direction, and the pilot was on a sleep, and the caravan make a full turn, and throughout the night they have traveled to the opposite direction. When it's morning time comes, the pilot woke up and then realized that actually they have traveled to a different direction, kind of more to the middle of the desert rather than away from the desert. Now they are in a big trouble. The reason, the water and the other needs that they brought along with them was only sufficient to the amounts of the days that it takes for them to cross the desert. And sometimes when we reach to the end of the desert, they will even throw away certain things in order to give more ease to the oxen. So now mainly they have a problem with the water. If they don't have water, they can't survive. They can't survive. Of course, these oxen need water. The people need water. They can't. They are in a big trouble in the middle of the desert because of the one mistake. Now, Bodhisattva is the leader of this. Is the caravan leader. He's the leader. So everybody is so depressed. Everybody is so panic. What to do. We are in big trouble. But Bodhisattva, they will use his wisdom, use his mindfulness. Remember that is one of the two of the five faculties. He didn't get panic. He used his mindfulness to become aware of his own mind. He became aware how the people behave. And then he was using his wisdom, his discernment. Okay, don't be panic. Let's try to find a way to get this out. This is an adversity. This is a challenge. We are in trouble, but we don't have to be victims of this. Let me think about what we can do. So Bodhisattva want to look around, any sign of water. Who will believe that there'll be water in the desert, right? But he was just looking around, and he was traveling to different directions just by foot and try to find. And then he found a small bush, very small bush, like grass, a small bush. And that was a sign for him. He decided, okay, if there's the grass is growing here, the type of grass that grow in the desert, there should be some source of water here. So he called all the people, his men, and asked them, okay, we will make our effort, and this area, we should have some source of water. That is why this plant is growing, even it's a very, a small plant. And so they all got together, but they didn't have enough strength because they didn't have water. But Bodhisattva encouraged them, okay, don't get discouraged, let's try our best. So get all your instrument and go get all your spades and other things. And so now they are digging a well right in the middle of the desert. They keep digging and digging and digging. They dig so deep, but still they didn't find water. Some are already discouraged. But the Bodhisattva, he was not discouraged. Encourage everyone, okay, please go ahead, let's do it. So one by one, the people are being exhausted. They had no power, no energy. Without water, how you can work so hard? But still, others were kept digging and digging and digging. They were able to dig the hole to such a deep level, and they went so deep until they find a solid rock on the bottom. All the efforts, they failed. All the efforts that so many people put, being fully exhausted, and some even cannot move anymore because they're so exhausted. But after many hours of effort, they only found a rock. Now, everybody becomes so depressed, so discouraged, and there's no way that we are going to perish. But the Bodhisattva did not, give up. He used the Viriya. Okay, let me use the Viriya. And he went down to the hole and observed everything. And he found the solid rock. See, it was a solid rock. But he had the confidence, he had the confidence that if there was a grass, there should be some source of water. So he simply leaned down and put his ear to the rock. And then he was able to listen to the underground stream going underneath the rock. So his guess was not wrong. And then he asked a young man, please, young boy, please come here. And we all rely on you. I know that you're exhausted somewhat, but we need your energy now. Please use this spade, use this hammer, and we are all under in your hand. Use all of your strength, all of your Viriya, and please break this rock. So with the encouragement of the Bodhisattva, this young man take the hammer and he uses all his strength and keep struck against the rock again and again. After a while, a piece of rock was broken, and the underneath current of water started to come out like a spring. And so they were almost about to give up, but then at the last moment, they was able to get the water because they did not give it up. So we have two important lessons to learn from this story. One is in earlier case, the desert pilot, he had the Viriya to cross all the way, but when he's almost reached the destination, he got so relaxed. He thought that there's only one more, last night, now it's easy. So he gave up the effort. Sometimes when we are almost about to reach our goal, when it is so easy, when there's no adversities, when it's so easy to achieve, we also get relaxed. And then, the problem happens. Of course, in recent researches, people have realized that many accidents happen, particularly in the US, within the last few miles of their destination. They may have to travel like 500 miles. They will be very careful. They will put effort, everything. But when you come to the last 10 miles, they get relaxed and they meet with, most of the accidents has happened within the last few miles of their destination. It's very common, and that's what happened to this pilot. That's something we need to learn. When we are so close to achieve our goal, when everything is smooth, everything is nice, and we get too much relaxed, and we lose our effort, and we may not get the result. And the other case here, and everyone was digging the hole, putting all the effort, then they found the big obstacle, the rock. And then everybody tend to give it up. And when we meet with such a difficulty as obstacle, we also give it up. When it's too easy, we give it up. It becomes too relaxed. And when it's too difficult, also we give it up. But in both cases, we shouldn't give it up. We should have the Viriya. That's how the Bodhisattva guided everyone. And so with that effort of that young boy, that the pieces of rock was broken, it was like a spring, what is coming up, and everybody was able to, catch their thirst. All the oxen were treated well. And then what they did, they put a nice flag in that place, because then next time all the caravans coming in that direction, now they have a source of water. They have a well. So they met with an adversity, the difficult circumstance, they were almost perished. But because of the wisdom and mindfulness and Viriya, important Viriya, if they have the knowledge, but if they don't put the Viriya to dig the hole, dig the well, there'll be no result. So because of that Viriya, and they were able to create a source of water here, and then all the other caravans teams coming later had the source of water. So you can see how the adversity was transformed into an opportunity, and then to one's advantage. And this Jataka story was also told by the Buddha to a monk, and who who was ordained at the young age and took the instruction from the Buddha and went to meditate in the forest. And after a while, he was not able to really, manage his defilements. His defilements so strong, and then finally he gave up his meditation. He came back, and he was so disappointed, and he was thinking that, I'm not strong enough, to destroy my defilements. And then Buddha reminded him, and young monk, and in many years ago, you were the strong boy, you were the strong man who helped so many people with your strength. And Buddha told him this story. And in this story, you saved so many people. I gave instruction to you, and you use your last drop of strength, and you save everyone. So go back to meditate again, and you can do it. And Buddha encouraged the young monk with this story. So that's Viriya. That's the Viriya. So in most of the cases, we can use the Viriya for our own life adversities. But in the Buddha's teaching, Buddha has talked about this Viriya mostly in situations of our spiritual growth. Spiritual growth, and this is a very important statement we can find in the sutta called Chanki Sutta, where Buddha talk about importance of Viriya. The exertion is the translation here, because in Pali it is Aradha Viriya. Aradha means like started Viriya, they started Viriya. So you have started the Viriya, so then it becomes exertion. So you can read this. Let me move my window here. I hope that you can read this one. This is a quote from the Chanki Sutta. But the talk about the exertion is the most helpful for the final attainment of the truth. Bharadwaja is the name of the person Buddha is giving this teaching. And if one didn't make an exertion, one wouldn't finally attain the truth. Because one makes an exertion, one finally attain the truth. Therefore, exertion is most helpful for the final attainment of the truth. We can have wisdom, we can have mindfulness, we can understand everything, but if we don't put forth the effort, nothing will happen. So it's so important, like, remember that, and remember that we have that capacity, we have that potential. Maybe it is in different level, but we can grow it, we can enhance it. And then when it comes to the Buddha's teaching, the Buddha talks about a special kind of effort, what we call right effort or skillful effort. Here Buddha want to understand us that we should put forth our Viriya for a special purpose. Of course, in our normal life, in our day-to-day life, we can use our Viriya to overcome our adversities and transform our adversities into opportunities. in a spiritual practice, our effort should be given to change our mind, change our defilements. So there are 4 types of effort. So for the sake of whatever unwholesome tendencies, unwholesome defilements that we already have, and we have to make effort to abandon them whenever they visit us, whenever we are being influenced by those defilements. We should become aware of them, observe them, and then drop them, and try to abandon them. And then also make an effort that whatever defilement that has not arisen yet in our mind, we should create the environment that those defilements will never arise in our mind. There's a role for the environment also. And if you associate, all the spiritual friends, and those defilements will not arise. We don't create the conditions for these defilements to arise. And then, of course, whatever wholesome skillful mental state that we have developed, like loving kindness, patience, gratitude, and all this wholesome quality, we need to enhance them. Whatever we have, we need to enhance them. Whatever little bit we have, we need to enhance them. And of course, if we haven't developed certain wholesome qualities, we need to develop them. So this is the 4 types of exertion, 4 types of right effort that we need to engage. We need to pay our attention to. But so mainly, so here actually, the way that Buddha asks us to put effort, there's a very nice way of putting that. This is the 4 types of effort, but how we do it? First, we need to generate desire. First we need to generate desire, and then endeavors, and then arouse persistence and uphold. These are the different stages of our Viriya, and for us to put an effort to anything, we need to have some desire for that. And usually we tend to think that desire is always bad, but here the Buddha used an important term called chanda. Chanda is more like a willingness, chanda. So there are skillful desires. It's not necessarily selfish desires, but like willingness to do something. When you understand how the enlightened beings are living at peace, you would like to have such a peace. You have willingness to have such peace. When you learn the story of the Bodhisattva, how the Bodhisattva transformed adversities into opportunities, you have a desire to be like that, willingness to be like that. It's called chanda. It's not like tanha. It's not craving. It's a power. It's a inner, interest. That's called chanda. So we need to develop that interest, and then we make efforts, and then we keep on doing it, and then we don't give up our intent. We uphold the intent until we reach the result. So these are the effort we need to make. I think I have shared so much with you how we can use our Viriya for our day-to-day life, and also for our spiritual growth. So I just want you to remember that, we have 5 faculties, 5 inner strengths, 5 inner potentials that we can grow. When we are advancing on the spiritual path, we are growing these 5 faculties. Faculty of saddha, and faculty of Viriya, and faculty of mindfulness, and faculty of samadhi, or ability or stillness, and then faculty of wisdom or discernment. So please pay attention to these faculties. We can grow them day by day. Particularly today, we talk about Viriya. So we really can use our Viriya to transform any challenge, any difficulty. So don't be afraid of adversity. It will be difficult. It will be painful sometimes, but don't be afraid of. As a Buddhist, you can use the example of the Buddha, and we can somehow use that adversity, that difficult challenge, that painful experience into something that you will discover new thing, and you will use it for all your own spiritual growth. So what really matters is not even like getting results. You may have a difficult situation. You tried new ways to deal with that. You use that difficult situation to watch yourself, see how you react, and you can understand your own mind, and you can make different efforts to change that. maybe you may not achieve your expected results. But what's really important is not necessarily the result, but what is happening in that whole process. When you make an effort, what is really important is not what you really reach or achieve, but what you become in that whole process. So really it's all about that. When you make these efforts, when you try new ways, when you use these adversities for on to understand ourselves, to change the way we think, to go beyond our comfort zones, and in that whole process, we are making a very important change within us. Okay, I hope that is enough for the sharing, but I would really like to have more discussion and questions. And brother, so now we can move to our Q&A sessions.
Bhante, there's 2 questions in the chat.
Okay, let me go to the chat. Okay, one, COVID-19 throws up a lot of difficulties in fear. How should we rise above this fear? Yes, I think it's a very important question. Fear is something that we all experience these days. So of course it can be fear due to financial situations, fear due to health situations, fear due to our our family members, our loved ones in danger. This is very common. It's okay to experience fear, and we should not blame ourselves for having fear. It's very importantly, in the Buddha's teaching, fear is not listed as one of the defilements. Fear is listed as one of the biases, but it is not listed as one of the defilements, because fear can be like a signal, for us to be active. So, okay, how we can rise above the fear? So whenever we have that fear and use that fear as a signal, fear is simply telling us that we should pay attention to something. So so it's okay to have fear, but don't stay in the fear, and use the fear as a signal, like telling me to pay attention. And then fear should be the starting point that we can do something. So when you have fear, use the fear as a motivation, but remember, not being without panic. So that is why we need mindfulness first to manage the fear. So whenever we have the fear, first of all, just observe it. Just feel what is really happening in the emotion of fear. What is happening in my body, how this, nervous system has get agitated. And just don't simply, follow that, that fear, but simply first observe it and acknowledge it, and then try to pay attention not to the fear, but the issue that fear is helping us to pay attention to. It could be a financial issue. It could be a health issue. So then we can use the fear as a signal, and then we can pay attention to the issue and do something about it. So one way we can rise above the fear is not being afraid of the fear, and using the fear as a signal, and then be aware of that, and observe that, and then do something. So use the fear. If we can transform the fear to a motivating factor rather than factor to become panic, but in a motivating factor, I think that's where we can rise above the fear. And of course, we need to develop our deep understanding also. At the end, of course, if you learn the teaching of the Buddha, nothing will remain permanent. So sometimes we need to accept certain changes. We can't have everything permanently. So we have to develop this ability of let go. So fear is a very important signal. So telling us to pay attention to something. So let's observe the fear and pay attention to the issue. If it is something that we can do something, we use the Viriya and do it. It is something that's too big, and it's something that not within our capacity, and we simply accept and let go. If we can rise above, we go above. Otherwise, we just avoid them and try to go in different way. Okay, second one, Is Viriya is also part of parami of Aditthana? Yes, yes. Thank you, Annie, for that question. Uh, uh, in the list of 10 parami, and Viriya is one parami, and Aditthana is another parami. So the two paramis. So maybe you need to understand the difference between these two. So as we mentioned, Viriya is the putting forth the effort, being active. Aditthana is being determined. So they are of course related. Of course, all 10 paramis are related. So Aditthana is like focused and being determined and not change your goal, no matter how difficulties arise. So I think it's it's very good that you saw the connection between these two. They are related. And when you talk about Vayama, you talk about both of them together. But Viriya is the like inner ability, potential for us to be active, to to intervene, and Aditthana is the ability to stay strong without moving. So Viriya is about movement. It's about doing something, and Aditthana is stability. So you need both of these skills to make your life successful and make your spiritual practice successful also. So we need to be strong. And without moving away from the goal. At the same time, we need to move, to do things. So we need both of these skills. So it's two paramis. They're related. Thank you for that question. And then we have another question from Pat. 4 stages of Viriya, first of which is Chanda or desire. What are the others? Okay. So we talked about 4 steps in the Viriya. Chanda is generate desire or willingness. And then the second one is Vayamati, that means endeavors, or maybe you can call it put the effort, endeavors. And this third one is Viryang Arabati. Well, then we find the Viryang. You start the Virya, you apply the Virya. Let me go back to that slide, and I think I didn't stay long enough. Okay, Pat, look at this. This is one. Generate desire, endeavors, arouse persistence, upholds and exercises intent. Okay, desire here. The generate this. Of course, all the English translation is desire. The Pali word is Chanda. The Pali word for the second one is Vayamati. Like same as Vayamati. And third one is called Viryang Arabhati. Arabhati is start the Virya, or maybe apply the Virya. And then Chandan Janeti, Vayamati, Viryang Arabhati, Chittang Pagganhati. Chittang Pagganhati. There Chittang means the intent. Our intent, Chittang Pagganhati. You oppose the intent. You don't give it up. You oppose the intent. You stay focused. Uphold the intent. They are related, but those are the 4 terms. Okay. And the other one, Elino, right? Elino, I think. How do we overcome the anger that arises during our daily liaisons with people at work? Like the staff not meeting the KPI. I don't understand what you mean by KPI. Maybe there's something familiar to you, but
it's key performance index.
Oh, key performance index. Okay, thank you, brother. Okay, yes, this is very really practical issue. I really like this question. Okay, how we can deal with people at work. Of course, as a leader, leader, you remember the Bodhisattva, and he led the whole group of, caravan to find something that seems impossible. Who would think that they can find water in the desert, right? But, as a Bodhisattva, he led the team. Of course, I think the reason that we get angry is that we don't meet our expectations of them. So, so the problem here is actually like, that we get agitated with our anger. So we need to distinguish, that, our need to lead the people to a certain direction and our need for people to do their best is one thing. And then we need to, in our expectations, we need to like, this is common, we need to understand human behavior. And then it's very possible that, some of them may not fulfill our expectations. So always we need to have some room in our expectations. It's possible that, this, so when we do our planning, we need to have a room for unexpected things to happen, so we need to like loosen our expectations. But then by understanding human behavior, we can find a way to motivate them. I think if we become angry, we lose the ability to motivate them and inspire them well. So here, I think first we need to manage our anger. So your question is how we can overcome anger. So I'm glad that you discern that you want to do this. So one way you can do this is with deep understanding of the human nature, and it is common. We are all under our defilements. That's common human nature. But at the same time, we also have this inner strength that we just talked about. So first we need to accept the human nature, so you don't get upset when you really encounter them. But then you should observe it, and there's a difference between anger and what the unpleasantness. We can encounter unpleasantness, and we can acknowledge it, and then once we acknowledge and accept it, then we will not develop that unpleasantness into like aggravated anger. So you may encounter unpleasantness when you see certain people are not performing well, and you encounter that unpleasantness, and you acknowledge that, and then you try to understand, okay, this is human nature, but how I can change this. And so if you don't move from unpleasantness to anger, and you will have more wisdom, more clarity to find ways to how to motivate this person, whether by depriving certain privileges, or maybe giving more intensives, or maybe giving more, rewards. So in order for you to make that decision, you need to have clarity of the mind. So the best way is that whenever you encounter unpleasantness, observe that unpleasantness, and then quickly, before it move into anger, and just quickly turn it to an understanding of human behavior. And of course, we can learn a lot from the Buddha also, and of course we can learn a lot from the psychology, how human behavior, but mainly from the Buddha also. People are different. People are different skill sets. People are under influence of their defilements. So and also you should expect those things. You don't expect everything will be smooth. Don't expect that everything will be performed well. You need to expect in advance that you will meet such people. So when you meet such people, when you first expect in the beginning, you have prepared to meet such people. So you will not get, upset. When you encounter them, that you feel the unpleasantness, but then you observe it. You don't develop into anger, and then you sit back, and you become creative. You try to be creative. You use this challenge to be creative, think out of the box, and try to find a way how we can push this person. Maybe depriving certain privileges, or maybe giving different rewards. Whatever, you can do it. But I think the best way to overcome our anger is to expect those imperfections, and don't think that they are extraordinary. They are ordinary. They are very normal. You are sure to meet them. Have that expectation in advance. And when you set expectation on the people, make them loose. And then whenever you encounter them, and observe the unpleasantness, and quickly turn into your understanding, and go to your understanding of human beings rather than emotional agitation. And then you have more wisdom to overcome that. Is it clear, Elena? Okay, I hope that. Okay, welcome. Okay, any other thoughts or any other questions, brother?
I think we have finished all the questions already.
Okay. Okay, Bhante, yeah, okay. I'm so glad that, I was able to spend my morning with you and evening with you. I hope that you remember the Viriya. You remember the story, the Vandapatha Jataka, very important story. And you remember the, 4 types of effort we can make, and also the 4 stages of effort that we can make. And so, yes, whatever adversities, you encounter, remember that, as a disciples of the Buddha, and we can use them as opportunities. And those are the opportunities for us to grow. So we can use them just like we are using our pandemic. This is a very difficult one, a very challenging one. But it's still, of course, now when you see, we can have Dhamma talks from the monks living in faraway places, right? So we are using it as an opportunity. So I hope that, I really wish, all the blessings of the Buddha and all the blessings of the Dhamma and Sangha for you to use these adversities, your adversities in your personal life, and also adversities in our common society. And may you be able to use all of them to change yourself, to grow yourself, to be creative, and then find satisfaction at the end. And may you all be able to reduce your defilements, at the same time grow your 5 faculties. For that, may you have the blessings of the Buddha. Thank you.